What is going on, world? It's your boy Sogekami back in the building again. One Piece is back, 1115. What a big number. And this chapter is called Continental Fragments. This chapter was very informative, very informative. It really let us know about what is happening in the world, about the past. A lot of headcanon theory stuff was confirmed in this chapter, so let's get into it. First, Yamato, it's her cover story. Yamato's getting a bento box from Hiyori and Otoko. Very cute. We do know that in the last cover story, we saw Kinemon give Yamato like Yasue's sword, and basically they were to bring the sword to the grave of Yasue. And then now she's seeing Otoko, so I wonder if she's gonna mention that to Otoko, or if they're gonna spin that in some way, or if Otoko's just here to be fun. So cutaway. This is like a cutaway chapter. We see a lot of reactions. Like for the last couple of chapters, it's really been letting us know about all the people who this is affecting and this worldwide scale of everyone hearing this news. So it's not like we know that everyone is going to be reacting to this, because this is world-shattering news. This is almost reminiscent of like a wartime, back when you would watch like documentaries and stuff where they talk about, or movies that depicted the times during World War II, where the president would go on and he'd talk to all of America, and all of America would be reacting. And so I was very reminded of this by this chapter, just the scale of all these people who we've known, all the people who we don't know, just reacting and finding out this information firsthand. It's been pretty cool to see, and I really like that. So some of the people who we saw in this chapter were the people of Wano, Momonosuke, Kinemon. We saw, what's her name, Tama, and then we saw like Damalo Black. And I thought this was funny because Damalo Black was previously fake Luffy, and now he's fake Kid. And then we saw fake Killer and some of the other kids, crewmates, the fake version of them, and I thought that pretty hilarious. And they're still in jail on Navy Base G4, so it is what it is. I guess they got caught again. The Minks on Zou, we saw Foxy, the people of Mocktown again, we saw Orange Town, we saw Shimotsuki Village, the Sakura Kingdom. All of these are related to Straw Hats. And so all of these places were important for us to have seen in this chapter, I think. And overall, it really, once again, provides the scale and the people who are affected, right? Before we saw the people of Usopp's village, and all these people are affected by the rising of the tides. So that really is going to go back to show us like what the Straw Hats will be fighting for, because if they're going to destroy the world, the Straw Hats all have people across the world in the East Blue far away that they can't just get to save. So they're going to need to do something to stop this water rising from killing all the people they love and the places that they want to get back to. And so we started off in Wano. First thing I noticed was that Wano had that Straw Hat flag, and I love to see it. We were in Wano for a long time in real life. It was like 3, almost 4 years that we were in Wano for. So we've really, and Momonosuke has been with the crew since I was caught up in One Piece. Momonosuke has been with the crew, so it's really lovely seeing the people of Wano. We still haven't seen Law. I know that Law had his fight and whatever, but I would love to see something with Law in the future, just something of him. And we still haven't seen the reactions from Buggy. I feel like that's going to be a big deal too, because I want to know how Buggy's going to react, if he knew anything or what's going to go on there. And hopefully those things are combined. I'd love to see the former warlords all get together in the Cross Guild. I think that is, I don't know if I want to say likely, but definitely a possibility. The Great War theory and the underwater ancient city theory were confirmed. I'm not reminded right now of if it was confirmed that there was a war in the past, but I know that a lot of theories had covered that. But definitely the theory about the underwater city, and I subscribe to this, that there was an old town. It came from Jinbei's cover story, where Jinbei found a poneglyph underwater, and nobody knew why there would be a poneglyph underwater and how it got there. And the theory was that the islands were submerged, basically. And it was confirmed that, yeah, that was a little trail, a little breadcrumb Oda left for us to really think about the fact that, like, how did this get down here? And even in Wano, right, when we saw that there was a city underwater, that was like almost foreshadowing to what it actually happened. And, and that's where the ancient weapon is, underwater in that old Wano. So that is probably going to be important moving forward. And now with all this talk, that makes me think that Yamato is going to be someone who could potentially uncover that. And that will be interesting to see. So we find out a lot about Joy Boy in this chapter. Joy Boy fought the world government. At the time, they weren't known as the world government, but they formed the world government before they were just allied nations. And they fought against Joy Boy's formidable army. So it's kind of thinking that, like, Joy Boy had an army similar to, like, the Straw Hats. And the world government had a temporary coalition. In the temporary coalition, we can assume that it was, I don't know, because they said it was the world government, right? So I don't know if that means that, because right now we think the world government and the Celestial Dragons are separate. So was the world government working with the Celestial Dragons or for the Celestial Dragons? We have to think about how that came to be. So was it the world government or was it the Celestial Dragons? The Celestial Dragons ascended and the world government stayed the same. That's a question that we really don't know yet, right? Or were they separate or were they working together? How did the Celestial Dragons end up, being on top of the world government? How did the world government bend the knee to the Celestial Dragons, and why did they do that? This chapter did leave out a lot of stuff about Lunarians. I really want to figure out what timeline they're from and how that worked. I am hoping that Joy Boy has a connection to Lunarians, but right now it's just, I guess that's more stuff to learn about in the future. We catch up with Mars. Mars is taking out snails. He's using Conqueror's Hockey, and it's still not ending the broadcast of this message. I think that that's super important. I think that it's possibly that the broadcast could be coming from somewhere else. I'm still on the team of Dragon is doing the broadcast. No, we see him in this chapter. We still don't know exactly how this broadcast is being sent out or where it's being sent out from. It could still be being sent out from somewhere on the island, and it is possible that in a pivotal moment, like saying the name of the ancient city, if the people are still going to be able to, like, find out the truth, in that pivotal moment. It could be somebody who ends the broadcast right from the island, and basically, we have to go from there. We do see a silhouette of Joy Boy while Vegapunk is talking, and Vegapunk, in the silhouette, we see the silhouette looks exactly like Luffy in Gear 5. So that is exciting to see. More confirmation that Joy Boy and Nika are not the same, and that Joy Boy had this devil fruit, because we do see the ring around Joy Boy. So he had awakened the devil fruit as well. Joy Boy, yeah. So now we see Robin's job. I wanted to mention this because one of the things that I saw coming up over and over and over again with content creators and stuff like that, they're just talking about how what Vegapunk is doing is essentially what Robin wants to do. So now, with the information that Vegapunk doesn't know, like the whole history and the information about the crew, information about what they're fighting for, who were on the good side and the bad side, all information like that is up to Robin to find out. So Robin basically has a new job, and I would love to see Robin's reaction hearing this stuff, because this is all stuff that Robin's family, Robin lived for. So I think Robin has a big role to play in the outcome of, this information being spread. Nothing has related to the ancient robots so far, and nobody has even reacted except for, world government members who saw it, to this ancient robot. So I want to know if more about the ancient robot, if Vegapunk's gonna mention the ancient robot in the story, and how the ancient robot, and Zunisha and Joy Boy are all connected in one way. It seems like in the picture that Joy Boy wasn't a giant. Joy Boy didn't look huge, and he had a similar build to Luffy. So I don't expect him to be somebody who was like a one of the races that Kuma was, escaping my mind right now. So I want to know more about this ancient giant. Was he built? He seems sentient in some way, but maybe he still has like a power source. So like, what powers him? What keeps him going? Will the robot be mentioned in the story? Who knows? Who knows? But we need to get some more stuff about this ancient robot. And yeah, like I said in the last review, Edison ain't making it. It seems like it's over for our boy. Edison was really cool. He made that cool, amazing sacrifice for the Straw Hats. And I like the way that he still had a heart for Stussy. He said, basically, Stussy, you need to survive. And Stussy was kind of floundering, like, I don't know what to live for. But as a huge Stussy fan, please, please, please don't make her go out like this. She seems to have recovered pretty well, standing on her own 2 feet, and she's trying to figure out what to live for. I could see Stussy in a lot of different organizations. She'd be perfect in the Revolutionary Army. So make something happen with her. I want to know more about her, and I would love it if she doesn't have to join the crew, but she can just ride with the Straw Hats. Robin didn't have a goal with the Straw Hats when she joined, so I think that the Straw Hats would take her open arms, and she can definitely Geppo her way over to the ship. So I'd love to see that. We see Kaku react to Stussy's words as well, when Stussy's saying that she has nothing to live for, and that like rang true for me, because basically Kaku was left out to die, and he doesn't know that, but I think that he would be happy to know that Lucci was standing up for him. Lucci was like, hey, like, I have my comrade in there and I want to get him out. You can't kill him, basically. And, the Gorosei member was like, he's not that important. Let's leave him. And Lucci couldn't say anything to that. That's a superior. We catch up with Zoro and Jinbei. They're almost they're almost at the Straw Hat ship, sorry. And Jinbei is definitely making sure that Zoro's not leaving, because Jinbei's carrying him, and I like that Oda kind of like playing it up like Nami's mad at Zoro because he was taking way too long, because that's kind of like the fan sentiment, like, Zoro, you're fighting him for so long, how did you not end this so much quicker? And I just thought that was like maybe Oda like laughing at himself, like, yeah, I made this fight take forever. But I do like the way it ended, and they're almost at the ship. It's just like a cool little a funny moment for those characters. We see Venus. We're catching up with Venus and his fight with basically Bonnie and Frankie and the Giants. Venus's Sanji was nowhere to be found, which I thought that was an interesting choice. But Frankie saves Bonnie from a slice, and it seems like Venus is like either using the voice of all things to hear everybody, or maybe even it's the voice of all things and the breath of all things are connected. I don't know if I would say that, but it would be interesting if that was also the breath of all things, because he could hear all the people in the labo phase in the basement, and and he does this epic cut through the entire labo phase, and he basically releases all the people. And I think that what his idea is to make sure all the voices fall out of the labo phase, so anybody who's left in there could be pinpointed more accurately, because I guess all the voices were clouding him looking for the transponder snail. And it seems that Mars was taking too long, so Venus had taken it into his own hands. He couldn't be wasting time fighting Bonnie and Frankie again. We learn a little bit about Bonnie's devil fruit. She couldn't keep the gigantic form up for very long, and then she went back to her regular, 12-year-old size. And I think that's going to play an important part in this too, because Bonnie is going to be in her small form, and Kuma's not doing so well right now, so it'd be interesting to see if Kuma's not coming back, to Kuma to say goodbye to Bonnie and her her actual age. The Void Century ended with Joy Boy's defeat, meaning Joy Boy fought for over 100 years. So that's crazy just to even think about. The Void Century was 900 years ago and it ended 800 years ago. So Joy Boy, it's either Joy Boy fought for 100 years, or if the Void Century started at Joy Boy's birth, right? So they wanted to erase everything about Joy Boy's existence. And this could be, my personal theory is that Luffy's power is more powered up the more people believe in him. So the more people believe, the more power the Gomu Gomu no Mi, the whatever you want to call it now, the Nika Nika no Mi gets. And so that's why erasing Joy Boy and hiding the fruit and not telling you about what it does will diminish the power. But if you look at all of Luffy's fights, when people believe in him, that's when he gets the most powerful. You see that especially at the end of his fights, Crocodile, in his fights with Lucci, in the first fight when Usopp called for him. You see in these moments in Wano, you know, the people who were wishing Kaido to go away, you know, to be free. All of these things powered up Luffy to have enough strength to take down the big bad. So now that the world knows about Joy Boy, everyone could pray to this guy. We need him back. The world government, this and that. And all of these things will come into place when we're ending this long saga. Long saga that is One Piece. Venus leaves to cut the Labo phase in half. And I'm worried that he might end up clashing with Zoro. Since he's heading, like, basically from where the Labo phase is, it's facing towards the ship, right? The giant ship, and the Straw Hat ship is facing towards the giant ship, and they're gonna tilt the Labo phase, and basically the Straw Hat ship was gonna boost off towards the giant ship. But now that, you know, Venus has left from the giant ship towards the Labo phase, and he's done this giant attack, this could be something that triggers Zoro, right? So we can end up with like a clash there, and that could end up, you know, further pissing off Nami. But in general, that could be something that, you know, could be cool, and maybe Zoro will notice his sword, or even better, Venus will notice Zoro's sword, and that could be something that I would love to see. In Venus doing that slice, very reminiscent of Mihawk, very reminiscent of Law, both characters who I really want to see. And so, yeah, those are, I think right now, save for Garling and I guess Shanks, I'm not even sure how we rate Shanks, those are like our top swordsmen in the series. I guess I would have to put Shanks in there, and probably Garling. But yeah, so these characters are the characters who show us these sword feats. This sword feat was crazy. I think cutting an island in half, like I know Law cut a mountain in half, but I would consider that more devil fruit. This was just straight raw power, and we saw his sword extend twice in this chapter, so that is just crazy. And I know that there are a lot of theories about these swords extending to like these people's sizes, because Odin was way larger than Zoro, right? And his sword didn't, and his sword got smaller when Zoro got it. So these swords extending was interesting for me to see, at least. And I would love to see, this is just like a random thing popped in my head, if Zoro is from Wano, I wonder if Zoro is going to become a giant like Odin and Kinemon, you know, like those 7-foot tall guys. So I think that is a potential of something that could happen. But I don't think the Japanese are really known for being that tall, but it is something that could still happen. Venus leaves to cut the Labo phase in half. And yeah, I mentioned that. Vegapunk announces that we live atop of a world unseen that's at the bottom of the ocean. And then right now we cut right to the reaction of the Revolutionary Army. I think that connects to some of the stuff that Sabo was talking about, some of the stuff that Ivankov was talking about, in terms of Ivankov mentioning that there were 20, that Imu could have been somebody from the I think called Necroma family, something like that. And that could, Necro related to the dead, that could be mentioning that Imu could be potentially undead. And like, this could be the reason that basically Imu could have been the trigger to the people who are like the cities that were leveled, placed underwater, use this attack. Like, the Revolutionary Army knows a lot more than everybody else knows. They know about the existence of this weapon. They know about the existence of Imu, and now they have a understanding of something that Imu has done in the past potentially. So all of this stuff, especially with Sabo, really reigns true. And Sabo doesn't like it, like Luffy mentioned at the beginning of this arc. Sabo doesn't like it when people's freedoms are people aren't free. People are don't have options to do what they want to do. So Sabo could be really triggered by this whole thing. And I think that Sabo, once again, we know this from Cobra talking about this before Cobra passed. It was Sabo's goal to like tell this to Luffy and to tell this to I don't remember Cobra, Vivi. Tell them that they're part of this like D family and they're connected. So he has to send on Cobra's will. So we know that Sabo, in some way, shape, or form, is going to be taking a more of a front seat in the future. So I'm super excited to see what Sabo does now with this new information, piecing this stuff together, where the revolutionaries are at, and this is going to be something that changes a lot for them, at least, because now they know that like they have this weapon. What happened to Leloucia Kingdom was, obviously they knew it wasn't an accident, but now they know what it does, right? They know that what the weapon does and what firing it multiple more times will do to the sea level, and they can connect everything better than how the world could connect it, because Sabo saw what happened in Leloucio. Sabo saw Imu. Sabo knows about like a hidden history now, and Sabo now I think is confirmed to think that Imu is from before the Void Century. So that is all big for them. And Vegapunk mentions that the sea level rose 200 meters. And I was thinking that the land masses, right? The land masses being separate. And Vegapunk mentions that the continents were much larger before, right? So with the sea level rising, a reason for that was to separate people from each other. People didn't have, like, not everybody was waterfaring. And once Joy Boy went to the water, this is a theory, by the way, once Joy Boy went to the water and Joy Boy was connecting with all these people, and he was building an army of people who would have his back and setting these people free, Imu had to find a way to basically keep everyone detached from one another. Stop a lot of what Joy Boy's lore is based on is people passing down information. But if people can't go out to the sea and talk to each other, if people were basically living on their islands their whole life and going life after that, they wouldn't be able to communicate with each other, pass along information about this is Joy Boy, this is that, and people will forget. And certain cultures kept their history, made sure to keep their history strong, and those are the cultures like the Skypians, the Giants, I don't call them brigands, Kuma's race, they're called at the moment, Lunarians. All these people remember stuff about Joy Boy because they passed that information down, because people of Wano, Fishmen, all these people didn't let those separation forget about their history and where they came from. So I think that is a big lesson that we're learning about in this chapter, like just the importance of keeping your history, not letting anyone, just because you can't pass your history down to people who never knew about you doesn't mean your descendants won't, and they keep that history strong. The Minks, they have their history with Wano. They kept that history strong. So we see that apparent in a lot of the groups of people who still travel. And now that pirates are a thing again, we're seeing this rise of people traveling, spreading stories, people hearing tall tales, people not knowing what to believe in. This is also relates to Usopp. Usopp had all these tall tales that people couldn't believe. Imagine what it was like in the Void Century. All those tall tales were probably nothing considered to comparable to them. We saw quickly, there's like an apple-headed girl that was kind of reminded me of, like, we see in some panels, people dressed like Luffy, fishermen dressed like Luffy, people dressed like Zoro, like in Shimutsuki Village, and then the girl with the apple head was probably a girl who loved Vegapunk, because that's obviously what that's referenced to, right? She could be somebody listening in on Vegapunk's message, and Vegapunk's their hero, but she wasn't crying. I wonder if that would have been like more standing outish about her, right? But yeah, she's obviously the highlight in that panel, and it's interesting that Vegapunk has fans. And the last thing that's mentioned by Vegapunk is the Great War is ongoing. So that just goes to show that what we're seeing is part of a bigger picture, and everything is connected. So knowing where it comes from, where it started, why it started, is all going to be super important, and how it was basically controlled this entire time is all going to be super important for the Straw Hats to not fall into those same pitfalls. Once they find out everything, once the truth about the One Piece is known to the Straw Hats, how to defeat the government, One Piece will be over. And that's basically my review of the chapter. All the thoughts that came into my head. I was really yapping for 25 minutes. I didn't expect that to happen. The chapter was kind of fire. It was unexpectedly fire. I like that we heard this story, but we still also got to see a lot of Straw Hat actions. I didn't even mention Luffy's not really doing much in this chapter. But, the other Straw Hats, Zoro, Frankie, we got to see a good amount of them. We saw a lot of Venus. I feel like Venus amongst the Gorosei members is getting a lot of hype. Speed feats, power feats, battle feats in general. A lot of good shots of his sword. I'd love to see how that's connected. I would love to see a reaction from somebody like Arlong, who's listening to this information. Because right now, if, based on what Arlong desires, a world going up 200 meters will not be a bad thing for him. He'd want that to happen, right? So Arlong could be somebody who says, yeah, let's put the world up 200 meters because that'll make the fishmen more powerful. That'll make us run the seas a lot more. So a reaction from somebody like a fishman like him, like an evil fishman, would be really great. And let me know what you guys think about this chapter. If you guys made it to this, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know you're alive in the comment section. Please, please, please. I love reading your comments. If anyone wants to collab, talk about One Piece, I'm always down. So let me know. You can hit me up in my inbox. And thank you so much. This has been Sogekami, and we out.